I have a good life, a Dolce Vita. I travel all over the world doing a job which I love. Okay, I spent 20 years getting to this position, but I've enjoyed going to work nearly every day. It's just the paperwork which seems never ending. My passport describes me as a Director of Photography or DOP, but I prefer the term lighting cameraman. I have an agent who gets me work all over the world and arranges for me to get there. And I love flying. I've managed to do a few documentaries about aviation, and even after thousands of hours, I still sit by the window, plane spotting like a little kid. Eastern countries are a culture shock. The light's different, the air smells different, the sound's different, and your senses go into overload. And I tend to experience most countries from the crew bus on the way to the hotel, where you quickly check in, check the equipment, and then crash out, because next day you always have an early start. On single camera shoots, documentaries, dramas and such, I'm in charge of the camera crew. On multi-camera shoots like this one, then I design and supervise the lighting, usually from a plan of the venue, and if I'm lucky, a few photos. The worst case scenario is you turn up on location, discover that one side of the room is nothing but glass. It used to be the case that the cameraman did a recce of the location, but nowadays that's very rare, and often you only find out the true nature of the location when you get there. Lighting's not just about making the set look nice from one particular direction. Any fool can do that. It's about covering all sorts of eventualities and possibilities. You have to work out where the cameras will be and what they'll see when they move or reframe, and light the set such that they can shoot in any direction without problems.
This for me is always the worst bit, because I'm dreading that the producer or the director or whoever is going to walk in and say, actually, we've changed our mind and we're going to do it somewhere else, or it's too light, or it's too dark, or I don't like a shadow, whatever.
If you've got a steady cam, then you have additional worries about him creating shadows or bumping into the lights. What you're trying to achieve is that each camera has the same aperture and the same look, so that you can cut from one camera to another without there being a jump in the lighting. I've got a crew of electricians in grips to actually do the humping and the shifting. Normally the DOP doesn't physically touch the lights, but I like to go hands-on, especially with the effects lights. I do like a bit of bling. The days are long and exhausting, so by the time you're finished, you get back to the hotel, straight to a room which looks the same no matter what country you're in, and then you just crash out. On a single camera shoot, the Director of Photography decides what lens to use, what filters, and chooses the camera settings. The same goes for the aperture and the focal length of the lens. Theoretically, things like changing the lens, back focus and such like are down to the assistant, but at the end of the day, you're the one responsible for the quality of the image. If it's not right, you can't blame anyone else. Sometimes you'll have a camera operator, but more and more nowadays, the DOP operates himself. I love operating. It's the best part of the job for me. Lighting is about knowledge and experience. Camera work, it's like playing an instrument. You're deciding how the picture's going to look, what's going to be included and what's not. Yeah, the camera's my instrument. I play a mean camcorder. The downside of being a DOP is that you don't get time to do sightseeing. You're often the first on location, and once you're finished, you're in your room or the crew bus planning the next day's shoot. It sounds exaggerated, but I've actually worked in places I've never seen apart from through the viewfinder. Sometimes I don't even need to change currency. There's no time to go shopping or even walk around getting the atmosphere. You just get picked up from one location and a convoy of taxis takes you to the hotel or the airport, and you just try and grab a few impressions as you whiz past. Actually, it's not as bad as it sounds. You do tend to get a bit jet-lagged, and occasionally you have to look at your airline ticket to remind yourself where you're going or even where you've been, but you get to go to places which you would normally only see on television. And like I said, you do get a lot of air miles. As a freelance, I work in all sorts of locations with all sorts of people for all sorts of broadcasters at all sorts of venues. On outside broadcasts, you work closely with the director and the technicians, so you just pick the brains of those around you. On some multi-camera shoots, the DOP is more of a camera supervisor. Like I said, it's up to the assistants to actually assemble the cameras, but the look of the pictures is my responsibility. I came to camera work from a film studio, and although the majority of my work involves lighting, I worked my way up from camera assistant to operator and then DOP, so working as a television camera supervisor is still a bit of a challenge. This involves deciding which cameraman or camerawoman operates which particular camera, making sure that all the shots are covered, knowing your crew, knowing the equipment and what's available for particular situations. I don't have to be able to use everything myself. For example, I wouldn't know where to start with a jimmy, jib or Steadicam, but I need to know what the equipment's capable of and who's the best person to put into that job. And I must admit, it's sometimes really tempting to grab the best positions for myself rather than just supervising from the OB truck. So yeah, I have got a good life. I enjoy my job and look forward to going to work. I suppose you could say that I enjoy La Dolce Vita.
Which we call sound system.